Lucid.
Good morning, Wildcats. I'm Vidi.
And I'm Chloe, and here are your virtual morning announcements.
Governor Northam has ordered that the flags of the United States and Commonwealth of Virginia may be flown at half-staff in respect and memory of the more than 500,000 Americans, including over 7,400 Virginians who have died from COVID-19. The flag should be lowered immediately and remain at half-staff until sunset today.
Summer online health and PE information is now available on the flyer in Schoology. The flyer contains links to pre-recorded videos about registration and course requirements. Today is the last day students can register for the lottery, and lottery winners will then register and pay for the course online. The link for more information is on the screen.
It's scheduling time. The window for you to request classes for 2021 to 2022 school year will be closed today. Every year, school counselors meet with all students individually to discuss their courses and their graduation plan. This year, we get to do all of these meetings virtually. Make sure you schedule a meeting with your counselor.
Congratulations to the forensics team. All 4 super regional qualifiers are going to states. Katie Zhang took first in humorous interpretation, Farhan Naheen in second in prose, Sahil Jaswal second in extemporaneous speech, and Kashif Ahmed third in original oratory. Go Wildcats!
The Wildcat Debate team had another strong showing last week in the Holy Family Invitational. The Wildcats competed against over 25 schools from 8 states. Niyati Admala claimed 3rd place overall in Lincoln Douglas. Aaron Lim took 5th place while Grant Lee finished 6th. Maggie Mooney also had a strong performance. The team will compete in VHSL 5B Regional on March 6th.
The following students will be auditioning for the All VA Orchestra. The virtual auditions will be held between February 26th and March 1st. The orchestra wishes them all the very best. Here are their names: Frederick Deerhart, Catherine Orlowski, Yuan Lee, Chloe Wang, Aaron Zhang, and Andy Zhao.
The balance for your AP exams are due by March 5th. If you do not pay the balance due, your exam will be canceled. To find your balance, you should have received an email this evening, as well as several times over the last few weeks, reminding you of your balance. You can also log back into your total registration account to check if you're not sure.
Interested in helping with live streaming our sports? Email Ms. DeGoli using the email provided on the screen.
Have a great day, Wildcats, and please stay tuned for the Black History Day program.
If anyone had a right to believe that this democracy did not work and could not work, it was those Americans, our ancestors. They were on the receiving end of a democracy that had fallen short all their lives. They knew how far the daily reality of America strayed from the myth. And yet, instead of giving up, they joined together. And they said, somehow, some way, we are going to make this work. We are going to bring those words in our founding documents to life.
Hello, I am Miles Ellis, a member of this class of 2021, and welcome to Resounding Spirit, a Black History Month experience at Dearborn High School. February is an important month, and even though we were faced with challenges brought about by this pandemic, we were determined to bring you this program. It is important to reflect upon, to honor, to remember, to learn about, and to celebrate the lives of Black Americans during this time. Why February? Well, there are many reasons. February 1st is National Freedom Day, the anniversary of the approval of the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in 1865. Carter Woodson, the father of the Black history, is credited with establishing Black History Month. Woodson wanted to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. Woodson once said, "No people can go forward when the majority of those who should know better have chosen to go backward." But this is exactly what most of our misleaders do. In this idea, we must move forward through education and understanding of the past. Though slavery ended in 1865, blacks in America continued to be oppressed and belittled for decades upon decades. Their lives were seen as inferior to that of their white counterparts, yet the accomplishments of blacks throughout history are remarkable and significant to the growth of our nation today. Their history has often been overlooked, underscored, and trivialized. This is why we celebrate today. This is why we celebrate and remember for this month. And this is why we celebrate, learn, and honor Black history throughout the entire year. We thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy this program. We hope you reflect upon Black history, and we hope this program will encourage everyone to continue and learn and grow moving forward.
Hi, my name is Meg Carey, and I'm the chair of the new PTSO Diversity and Equity Committee here at Deep Run High School. This committee celebrates Black History Month with the Deep Run community and gratefully acknowledges the foundational and ongoing contributions of African Americans to our nation. This committee was called as parent volunteers by the Minority Student Union, the larger PTSO, and the administration. Our primary purpose is to support a school community in which all students and their families belong. The Deep Run students we've talked to have great ideas about how to make this school community more equitable and inclusive. We're going to help them do that. And we'd like you, as our fellow parents, to partner with us. Let's start talking. If you have questions or comments, please email us at equity-diversity@deeprunptso.com. That's equity-diversity@deeprunptso.com. Thank you.
Dig it up, 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 dig it Mama voy en su portal, pumale, pese café. Mama voy This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, rejoice, and be glad in it, and be glad in it. From the rising of the sun till the going down of the same, He's worthy of the glory, He's worthy of the honor. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, rejoice, and be glad in it, and be glad in it. I will rejoice, 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 be glad in it. I will rejoice and be glad. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, rejoice, and be glad in it, and be glad in it. Come on, everybody, let's rejoice. This is the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, rejoice. This is the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, rejoice, and be glad, and be glad, and be glad in it. I
Today's guest speaker, Mr. Jibin Robinson, is the founding and managing shareholder of Ogletree Deacon's Richmond office. In this capacity, he focuses his practice on traditional labor and employment litigation matters. Furthermore, he serves as the co-chair of the firm's Diversity and Inclusion Practice Group, where he co-leads a group of attorneys dedicated to advising and collaborating with clients to assist them in the development and implementation of the company's diversity and inclusion strategies and initiatives. Over the course of his illustrious legal career, Mr. Robinson has garnered numerous awards and accolades. He was named as one of Richmond Style Weekly's top 40 under 40, listed in Virginia's Business Magazine's Legal Elite, selected as the Virginia Rising Star in Employment and Labor by Law and Politics Virginia Super Lawyers Magazine, and named one of Virginia's super lawyers. Mr. Robinson graduated cum laude from Hampton University and received his Juris Doctorate from the Marshall White School of Law at the College of William and Mary. Upon graduating from law school, Mr. Robinson received the Thurgood Marshall Award, which is given to a member of the graduating class who exhibits the ideals of and commitment to distinguished public service as exemplified by U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. In the spirit of public service, Mr. Robinson regularly volunteers his time and expertise at the Oliver Hill Samuel Tucker Pre-Law Institute, a summer program that introduces the legal profession to minority students across Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and respect that I introduce today's keynote speaker, Mr. G.B. Robinson.
Good morning. I have so many fun stories to share from my childhood days that it's hard to choose between just one, especially during Black History Month, where my memories and life's lessons have been so profound. But I've been asked to talk a little about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how corporate America looks at things. Here goes. I can't exactly remember how old I was when this happened, but I would guess I was around 14 or 15. I was a freshman in high school, like many of you. My dad's mother was Emily Jackson, who we all called Big Mama. Big Mama was one of the funniest people that I have ever met. She was peculiar, both in the way she looked and dressed and behaved. She was like a character off a TV show. She was 5'8", give or take an inch. She was flat-footed, walked like a 17-year-old boy who was trying to get a little swagger in his step. She had blue-green eyes, chewed tobacco, dipped snuff, yuck, had a cat and a dog, and was a terrible driver. She said whatever she wanted to say, did whatever she wanted to do, and we all loved her. One Sunday at church, we were always at church on Sundays and a few other days for a fact. She paraded into the church like she always did. She was a solid woman, not too big, not too little, but she walked down the center of the aisle, and when she did, you couldn't get by her even if you wanted to. Big Mama's brother, Uncle Sithro, was blind. It always amused me that although he was the blind one, in looks, he was nothing like Big Mama. He was a handsome man, always well dressed and well groomed. His suits were nicely tailored, his shirts were crisp, and ties always a nice compliment. His hair was always with a fresh cut. In contrast, Big Mama was typically rumpled and disheveled. Everything looked like an afterthought. Anyway, because Uncle Cithro was blind, Big Mama escorted him down the aisle at church. You would have thought she was escorting the king. She was so proud to escort her brother, beaming from ear to ear. That particular Sunday, we weren't in the choir or ushering, and so the kids would typically congregate together until someone's mother looked at us and made us move. As Big Mama walked down the aisle, Tony Lewis, one of my friends, who is now the superintendent of schools in Lawrence, Kansas, said, "Jimmy, there go your Big Mama." And the kids looked at me and started laughing, and I didn't think anything of it. She was hilarious. And they knew it, and so it wasn't unusual for all of us to laugh at even the sight of her. But then someone turned around and said, "Jimmy, she got her dress on backwards. Y'all better go tell her." And all the kids burst out laughing. And sure enough, she had her dress on backwards, and it was inside out. Several folks tried to tell her during the service, but she didn't run out. She didn't run to the restroom to change. She sat right there like nothing was wrong. After church, my mother, who rarely misses an opportunity to tell you what's on her mind, said, "Miss Emily, do you know that dress is on backward? And it's inside out." And what Big Mama said that day in response to my mother's question was one of the most important life lessons that I've ever learned. She said, "It's on, ain't it? I'm here, ain't I? I ain't gonna miss my blessing because this dress won't act right. I ain't worried about it, and you shouldn't either." And we all laughed. I have sat where you currently sit 30 plus years ago. I've gone a lot of places. I've listened to a lot of people. I've heard eloquent speeches by doctors and lawyers and politicians. I've had first row seats to hear speeches by presidents of this country and others, first ladies, secretaries of state, Supreme Court justices. I've taken lectures by some of the world's most renowned philosophers, but I've never been taught multiple lessons so profound as the ones that Big Mama taught me that day. And during this Black History Month, I think it is appropriate to share those lessons with you. Lesson 1. Life is a team sport that requires help from people of different stripes and experiences. You will walk through this world the remainder of your high school career, your college days, your adult years, your professional future, many times not knowing what everyone already knows, that your clothes are on backwards, that your dress is inside out, that if you would have just waited 2 days, you would have gotten those shoes you bought at full price for 75% off. Employers will know that diversity and equity and inclusion are bedrock principles, and you should know that the companies you want to work for already know that. That diversity of thought and friendship and mindset are just good, are not just good for life experiences, but it makes you more attractive college students. makes you more attractive interns for that first job, more attractive employees for that dream job you want because it gives you knowledge, creativity, adaptability, flexibility, insight, and abundance of other resources that are homogeneous environment made up of folks who just look and think like you cannot give you. You won't know that the job you're applying for has already been filled by someone with more diverse life experiences. So I'm here to tell you, as the person standing in front of you today, this guy, the one who is now the managing shareholder of the Richmond office of Ogletree Deakins, a major law firm of close to 1,000 attorneys. It is one of the biggest labor and employment law firms in the nation, but we only have 7 Black equity partners. That's it. That's out of nearly 1,000. And this guy came from extremely meager means. I grew up poorer than poor. I lived in a trailer on the poor side of town, which is better than the apartment that we used to live in that flooded every time it rained. My mother was a housekeeper with 11th grade education, but that did not stop her to push me to win every oratorical contest that I entered, to make all A's in all schools, to become a merit scholar and receive full scholarship from every Ivy League school I applied to, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. Maybe you will not know that your future employer knows more about you from your social media posts than you know about the company. But I'm here to tell you that your actions today will have long-term impacts on your life tomorrow. So if you made some insensitive or, dare I say, racist statements that you thought were just jokes or for fun, if you've used nasty epithets that you mumbled under your breath and thought no one heard or saw, just because it did not go viral does not mean it went unnoticed. There will be people who judge you for the type of person you are based on your social media presence. That presence showcases your character based on your friendship sets and your tweets and your posts, the answers to your interview questions, or let's say you're applying for college or that job applications and your responses show that you don't have very many life experiences because you've not opened up to embracing diversity and inclusion. So unless you quickly learn that this life is a team sport, you will go through this life not knowing what many people already know. Lesson 2, learn how to stand strong. See, what we didn't know about Big Mama was that while she was waiting to enter church that Sunday, Miss Denson, one of the ushers, had already quietly whispered in her ear, "Miss Jackson, your dress is on backwards." Big Mama had a decision to make. She could leave now and save herself some embarrassment. She could try again another Sunday. Or she could try to make it to the ladies' room, which was all the way on the other side of the church, and let someone else escort her pride, Uncle Cithro, down the aisle. She'd be late, but she'd be better dressed and would save herself some embarrassment. Or she could just own it. She could stand strong and move on. Well, based on the story I told, you know what she decided. One of the most important challenges you will face in the years ahead is how you handle those tough decisions like Big Mama just did. They will shape your character, and like Big Mama, you have to learn to stand strong. You have heard tons of stories during this Black History Month about how resilient and strong and unbuilding civil rights leaders and slaves and other marginalized communities have been. Now it's your time. While the future for all of you is full of promise, life is not always going to go so smooth. You will be mistreated. Some of you will be bullied. You may be laughed at or talked down to. Adversity will come your way. And the more you put yourself on the front lines, the more adversity you may face. And for some of you, you will not always live up to the expectations you have for yourself or what others may have for you. You may say some things that are just awful, that you're embarrassed of. but you can recover from it. You can be tough, but you can recover and begin to embrace the future. What ultimately matters in life is how you respond when adversity hits. That is when you show what you're made of. So act with integrity, show some courage and be embracing. Be decent, kind, respectful, and a culture carrier that sees equity not just as a good thing, but the best thing. So when those difficult moments come and tough decisions are in front of you, you got to learn to stand strong. The third and final lesson that Big Mama taught me that day is that there is more to you than just your clothes, than just what people see. I was often the only black or brown student in any of my classes. As you can imagine, because of how I grew up, I brought a perspective to discussions in my classrooms and now in the boardrooms that I enter that no one else has. That's what companies are looking for today. Those life experiences that make you a more rounded person, that allows you to be empathetic and caring, sympathetic to those less fortunate than you, those who look different than you do, those who don't share your religion or eat the same types of food you eat. See, my children's experiences are far different than mine. As you can imagine, with their mother and father both having doctorates and high profile professions, their lives were filled with luxuries that I never imagined when I was their age, living in that trailer. But what remains the same, just like me and my public high school education, their public school education allowed them to engage and befriend and visit and vacation with and experience friendships from all walks of life, all social and economic backgrounds, friends from different religions and ethnicity, from backgrounds and creeds. They embraced it, knowing that their future professions, their future employers, and even their future friendships will not tolerate one sided perspectives, but instead will demand that they bring their diverse experiences to the table at all times. Many of you may remember the poem by Rudyard Kipling, If. That poem was written back in 1985, over 125 years ago. It's amazing that Mr. Kipling knew then what company CEOs know now, that the best candidate for any job, the best college applicant for any school is the one, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch. Is the one who, if nothing, neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. So on this Black History Month, the lesson you must learn today is diversity begins with you. Equity begins with you. Inclusion begins with you. Helping others to belong and building a culture of inclusiveness begins with you. Now, you may be wondering why I'm wearing this fancy tuxedo. Well, after this chat with you, I'm interviewing Jimmy McMillan, who's the legal counsel and chief diversity officer for Penske Entertainment Corp. That's the owner of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, an IndyCar. Like so many companies, Penske is seeking to change its image, to recognize that diversity and equity and inclusion don't just matter, that they are essential. Jimmy has been charged with advancing Penske's Equality and Change Initiative, diversifying the entire industry. So remember, change is coming, students, and you must be ready. You're being prepared. Buckle up. Thank you.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade.
We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice.
And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow, we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished.
We're the successors of a country in a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president only to find herself reciting for one.
And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect.
We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze, not to what stands between us, but what stands before us.
We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all.
Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we will forever be tied together victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division.
Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we are to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promise to Glade, the hill we climb, only if we dare.
It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We have seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy, and this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated.
In this truth, in this faith we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of redemption we feared at its inception.
We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us?
We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A nation that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation.
Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left.
With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the west. We will rise from the windswept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover.
In every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will reemerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it.
For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
I know you're asking today, how long will it take? Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men?
Fear not doubt. Truth has patience to wait. The words of truth are touching. The voice of truth is deep. The law of truth is simple. All you sow, you reap. The soul of truth is
When our rank on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society.
You know, when I think about those 62 million girls that aren't in school, I think about myself, I think about my daughters.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper.
We would like to recognize our recipient of the Martin Luther King Light of Hope Award. The mission of the Henrico County Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Association is to encourage young adults to realize their potential and dreams through education and economic enrichment. This year, the association celebrated its 35th commemorative celebration honoring Dr. King. The virtual event was held in January with Congressman Donald McEachin as the keynote speaker. Each of the 72 schools and programs in Henrico County nominates a student who best demonstrate the attributes of Dr. King of universal love and brotherhood among all people. We are proud to announce that the 2021 recipient of the Martin Luther King Light of Hope Award from Deep Run High School is senior Ridya Mainra. Congratulations, Ridya. She is also eligible for a scholarship to be announced in June, and we hope she wins. Thank you.
We're grateful to have been able to provide Resounding Spirit, this virtual Black History Month experience, to our students and teachers through their first period classes and our community. We appreciate all those who have contributed to this program. I want to thank Mr. Dan Dickey for organizing and making this program and experience happen. We also extend many thanks to our student speakers, our chorus, Sean Connolly and Kelly Jackson with HCPS TV, and our keynote speaker, Mr. Jimmy Robinson. The Deep Run learning community, just like our country, is special because of the people. As we move forward after a particularly challenging year with the racial injustices and the pandemic, it is more important than ever that we work together to solve the very real issues in this country. As we work to make Deep Run a better place, little by little, day by day, we are making a difference. It starts with each of us making a commitment to be understanding of others and to find ways to make this school, this community, this state, and this nation a better place. We thank you for your attention and for reflecting upon the messages you heard during this experience. Thank you and have a great day.